Good morning. This is Just Listen, hosted by George Goodman, coming live to you. I'm coming live a little early this morning. The last couple of weeks, I've had stuff going on. I'm trying to build my viewership. So I've been working on a couple of things. So eventually, I will get a hard time of 10 a.m. to show up just to listen to your comments, etc. So I think things are going well right now. And I've made some changes to the programs. One of them is to be as brief as possible so that I can get the information out to you quickly and I won't lose people getting into the weeds about certain things or going 30 straight minutes. Because quite honestly, in Illinois, at least, pretty much every week with the candidates and the legislature, they are working on the same thing. So I find myself repeating a lot of things, but I try to bring you great information and make you very informed to what's going on. So today is April the 10th. As you know by now, the primaries were back March 17th. And since then, there has been a little activity from the candidates, and maybe the commercials are in um, Chicago, not sure. As I previously said, Governor Pritzker has been running ads, but it looks like that the Republicans haven't decided to do that. But at the end of the segment here, I'm going to share something that I saw from the news agencies this week. Okay, so what are they focusing on for governor of Illinois? Well, Governor Pritzker, the Democrat, is focusing on his progressive record and defending his third term bid. So he's currently facing criticism from Black leaders regarding his heavy financial involvement in the primary. So it looks like that um, in the Senate race, there was some discussion and a little bit of conflict on who the governor should be supporting. And I think the representative is the one that Black voters wanted. And the governor wanted Stratton. So that's who he went with, that's who he supported, etc. So that's what's happening with that. So on the Republican side, Darren Bailey, he's the nominee for governor on the Republican side. He's attacking the administration on high property taxes, utility bills, and rising crime. He characterizes Illinois as a state in economic stagnation that chases people away. Okay. So on the Senate side, Stratton, the Democratic nominee, she's talking about emphasizing healthcare access, higher wages, and funding for education. Tracy, the Republican, he's talking about advocating for economic freedom and criticizing what he calls a culture of welfare dependency. Wow. Promoted by the current administration. He also has highlighted issues like birthright citizenship. So that's at the top of the ticket. Now, one thing of note is there's not much information for the state House of Representative races. I've been trying to find information on it, haven't found much yet, but to tell you that whatever district you are in, look and see if your state representative is running and what they stand for on issues. Again, the Democrats have a super majority in the legislature, and the legislature It's the one making the laws, and the governor, since it's a Democrat, well, he's signing everything that they put on his desk. All right. So here are the campaign issues. Cost of living. Candidates on both sides are addressing skyrocketing property taxes, the need for affordable housing near transit centers. Transit centers is very interesting. Um, Not quite sure why that's an issue. You just have to dig in about that, and maybe I'll take that to look that up. Um, the property taxes, though, the legislature and the governor could do something about that now, and they're not doing it. So it must be the Republicans talking about it. And as you've seen in my previous uh, podcasts, that I've talked about what the legislature's actual priorities are. And the Democrats are doing one thing, and the Republicans are doing something else. And they are not even close to what they want to talk about. Public safety. So Republicans are focusing on ending the no cash bail. I mentioned that but before, and increasing cooperation with ICE. All right. Economic growth, a major talking point. Uh, Job growth and GDP performance, with challenges arguing for merit based restructuring of the state debt and taxes. So that sounds like that would be pretty important. Education, debates are centering on school choice, parental rights, and return to core academics, right? So in Illinois on education, it's a little dicey of what kids are getting taught in school. I would encourage you to go out to the websites of the candidates that you like and see how they would change it, and also see if they would take your input, because what you think matters. All right. So there's been significant fundraising underway for the upcoming mayor's race in Chicago. So it looks like that someone is emerging as a top contender with strong cash advantage. That's interesting. So I guess that the people in Chicago don't really want the current mayor. So stay tuned. Uh, so the Cook County Board is also trying to expand healthcare and employment opportunities for youth. Okay, so in the congressional races, that doesn't really affect us here in Southern Illinois. Congressional races, all right, are gearing up for the general election. So focus on the future of the Democratic Party and local infrastructure. Yes, because congressional people can bring money home back to the district. And just off comment here, I haven't heard of any money coming from people who were elected in Congress on either side in Illinois, because we need funding for roads, bridges, old infrastructure, etc. So that would be nice. All right. Housing affordability. The candidates are also talking about that. Proposing structural changes to lower the cost of living and increase the housing supply. Okay. Zoning and construction. So the governor has proposed Building Up Illinois build plan, which aims to preempt local zoning restrictions to allow high density housing, and such as requiring, municipalities to permit up to 8 units on large residential lots. So that one is very interesting. And I would note that if the governor is saying it, it might come to pass if he gets another term. Corporate ownership restrictions. So, Senate candidate Ms. Stratton, the Democratic nominee, proposes a tax penalty for hedge funds that buy single family homes and seeks to restrict AI from setting rents. Okay, so she's running for the Senate. Not sure how she would get that to pass. Maybe she will propose it as a bill once she gets in the Senate. All right, home buyer assistance. So, candidate Stratton, the Democrat, supports tax incentives for companies building homes below the median price point. On the Republican side, they propose waiving income taxes on down payment savings for first time home buyers. Rent control. So, Robin Kelly, she's the House of Representative now, the U.S. House of Representatives, has proposed capping annual rent increases. So, that's what they're talking about. All right. Utilities and daily costs. Policies are also targeting monthly bills and hidden expenses. Now, on the governor's side, candidate Bailey, the Republican nominee, is talking about a blueprint for Illinois, includes a proposal to freeze new utility rate hikes to provide immediate relief. Okay. Grid savings. So, Governor Pritzker recently signed the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act, which is projected to save consumers billion over 2 decades through energy efficiency upgrades. So we need to peel that back and see what that means, because if it's what I'm thinking about, we may need to look at that, because I think that that's really talking about more solar. So see if we get any. And remember, on the federal side, there's no incentives now to have solar energy in the state. That funding got cut off. Consumer protections. Junk fee ban act will require businesses to display fully upfront pricing and restrict insurance companies from raising auto and home premiums without more oversight. And I do know that the legislature has been talking about that, and there is a bill currently in the House where they are looking at doing that. All right. So, grocery tax, which I've talked about, debating the 1% grocery tax, while Pritzker touted its elimination, and Bailey noted that the local municipalities were still permitted to reimpose it. And that is true. As you are aware from my sound bites, that is 110% true. That when the state dropped the 1%, over 650 different local areas put it back into place. Maybe something that the Republicans can really start talking about. All right. Taxation and wages. So, shift the tax burden and income levels are central to candidates' affordability. Okay, so here we go. Here's how the Democrats want to fix it. Millionaires tax. Exploring a tax on millionaires specifically to fund property tax relief for middle class residents. Okay, so I have seen this one several times, and if you are for it or against it, the devil is in the details. What does that mean? And who are the people, right? So, why am I saying this? Well, if you are worth $1 million, is that the same? Or is it money in the bank or your salary? So that needs to be determined, because we have a lot more millionaires if you say how much someone is worth. All right. So I'm going to save the rest of this until next week because I'm almost going over my time, and I promised you that I was going to stay brief. My opinion is that for Republicans, I don't understand what the Republican Party is doing. There is no visibility on this side of the state. I've seen no commercials whatsoever. And I remember listening to a national segment that talked about how candidates need to visit counties in the state, not just stay in one part of Illinois, like that's going to make a difference. And the Republicans currently, I don't see anyone in this side of the state talking about any issues. When I ask people about it, some of them know who's running, especially for governor, but they don't know who the Senate candidates are or who's running for attorney general. And as a matter of fact, it looks like that on the attorney general side, there is absolutely no advertising. Now, I'm bringing this up to say this: you don't always have to put on commercials and spend a lot of money. In this modern age, you have all kind of social media platforms. Why don't we advertise out and say, hey, I'm speaking at this time, please tune in? Because it's not really the candidate's fault at times, because they can only put stuff out there if there's money. But whatever budget they have, they can get on the bus and start traveling around the state. And we see these issues, and every week I'm talking about what each side is talking about because I'm not taking a side, I am presenting information. However, it looks like that the Republicans are, if they're not getting the money, it sounds like to me that the message is not getting out. So go to the websites of candidates and see what they're talking about, and maybe even recommend to them that they come to your part of the state. This is Just Listen Live, hosted by George Goodman. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll meet again on Monday and talk again. And as always, please go out and go to your candidate's website and see what's going on.